Hi and welcome back to another Alpha Challenge video. Sorry about the delay between videos. There was a cyclone at my house. There wasn't any damage luckily to my house, which I'm glad about. And then I got sick just afterwards. So, yep. This video is about Zarimi Priest. The idea about the deck is to be able to get Time Winder Zarimi online as early as you can and then combo your opponent down in a single turn. The extra turn, being able to take the extra turn means that you can factor in a lot of extra damage that you can deal using things such as the Chrono boost or Artanis. In addition to that, you can use Hallucination plus Chilling Vol'jin onto one of your charge minions to be able to get extremely buff. Things like you can use a combo, which you'll see in a future game of this, using Ceaseless Expanse plus Chilling Vol'jin plus the Chrono boost, plus also 2 hallucinations to deal 45 damage. So you can deal quite a lot of damage coming from your hand as well. You want to be establishing tempo quite early, so the mulligans that you're looking for in your opening hand is Gold Panna, the Gift Whelp, Gorgonzormu, and Orbital Halo. Orbital Halo is generally more useful if it's in one of the middle spots. So if you have 4 cards, it's one of the middle 2 cards, or it's if you're going first, you have it on the card in the middle or the card to the right. This is simply because if it's the card on the left, it's more likely that you're not going to be able to get its 0 cost effect, which is the reason why it's so strong. Additional thing that's quite useful with this is that if you use Orbital Halo onto your Zealot, you can use Hallucination in addition to it, and it copies the buff as well. So if you do need to deal a little bit of extra damage, which I think happens in this game, that is an extremely useful thing for you. So going into the gameplay, I do have my Gorgonzormu and my Zealot out. At the moment, I'm just deciding on if I'm going to trade or not. I do end up opting to trade. Like it potentially might not have been the best idea just because they do have the ability to get the Artanis, and they also do have the 2 the hero power costing 0 rather than any more. They are just going to trade into my my 2 dudes, but the benefit of this sort of situation is they don't really have any more possible minions that they'd be able to play as well. I do end up getting a fly off the shelf, but at the moment it's not actually that useful. So I do just play down the cheese first, just to see what I end up getting, and then I play down my Gold Panna. It's quite possible in the next turn that I'm going to be playing down my clay dragon, because I want to be trying to get the Zarimi online to be able to take them out, because they're probably going to be applying too much pressure for me going into the rest of the game, just simply because they do have quite a wide board against me as well. Something that is a benefit at the moment is that they didn't end up getting their Groovy Cat or their Groovy Cat online, so it means that they're not dealing as much damage coming from the hero power, so they are having to trade into all my minions that are here. And with them having those 2 just onto the board, I am just going to play down the clay dragon, just because it means that I am getting more closer towards the win condition of the Zarimi. Plus, it does defend me from a potential turn from them. They do end up using the Astral Visor, and what I was also thinking about in that situation is was thinking they wouldn't have it, just simply because of the fact that just because of the simple fact they used the other one on the previous turn as well. So I did decide just to play down that in that sort of regard, but it's not too much of an issue for me in reality. I do play down my Grifter, and I just grab the extra health just in case I do need it. Obviously, it's quite useful for me to be able to get the extra life back, just because I am going to have to wait another extra couple of turns before I will be able to deal for sure with them. With 15 health, it is possible for your opponent to be able to combo you down, so you don't really want to be playing too risky in that sort of situation. Since I've got the Chrono boost plus the 2 hallucinations, I do have quite a lot of burst coming from my hand. It's 15 damage. If I do get an Orbital Halo as well. They end up using the Cactus Cutter to get a Dirty Rat, which doesn't really do too much for them. Like, it was really risky, to be honest, because if it had got a Ceaseless Expanse, they more than likely would have just lost. Yeah, so I think that was a incorrect play in that sort of situation for them. They do end up using the Blossom to be able to get an extra card into their hand, and obviously it gets them a bit of extra armor too. But I'm not really too concerned, just simply because they aren't really threatening too much damage to me at the moment. And my Clay Dragon will be coming on back online as well this turn. The other benefit that I do also have is that I have the Fly Off the Shelves that I could use in a future turn as well if I need to. This obviously can be useful to deal with what potential things could come up from my opponent. I end up just choosing the Whelp here just to be able to get the bigger Fly Off the Shelves combo turn onto my opponent. Just because it deals deals two rather than one, and then it also means that my opponent won't have any other minions on their board. The problem that could come from this is if they use the Mind Control tech, but in reality, Mind Control tech isn't really too threatening just because it uses so much of their mana up for that particular play. Like, it means that I do fall behind with the extra dragon that's here, but ultimately I do just need an hallucination to be able to get them down fully. They end up just using their they end up using the spell that I gave them through my Grifter, and it means that they're sitting back on their 25 health, but I'm not really too concerned. If they do play down the Groovy Cat, I can use a Mantle to be able to cancel it out. And it also obviously means that I get rid of the dragon as well, so they're not really doing too much either. And then with that, I am then posing 12 damage onto the board, and then with my 2 hallucinations and my Chrono boost, I do have plenty of damage to deal with them. I end up just using the spell onto my Amanthal just in case. It's more so just if they do potentially have some sort of way to be able to deal with me. That potentially was a little bit of a misplay doing the trade with the 4-1 rather than the 4-4, just because if they did have the two swipes, it would have meant that they could have taken out most of my board. And since if they just had a single swipe rather than 2 swipes, it would have been able to take out my whole board. They do just play down their double hero power card, and I'm not really too concerned about that just because since they're not really posing too much damage, it's not really too much of an issue for me. If they were threatening more damage, it would have been a bit more problematic for me, but simply because they didn't get any of their Groovy Cats online, they're not really doing too much. They end up just playing down a Chrono boost, so it means that they are threatening a little bit more damage, but once again, they're still sitting on such a little such a little amount of damage that it's not really threatening enough towards me. So they end up just dealing the 15 damage to me. So like, if they did have the other thing, they would have obviously been able to take me out fully. So right now I'm just calculating the amount of damage that I do have on board. So I just use the Chrono boost. So I just deal the 4 there, and then I play down my Zealot eventually. And then I get the buff from the Titan, and then I do the 2 hallucinations to be able to get the extra damage that I need to be able to deal lethal to them. So yeah, with those sorts of buffs, you are obviously able to push enough damage into them. So it's important that you do calculate the amount of damage that you are pushing towards them. Going into the next game, I'm playing against a warrior. So with warrior, you do want to make sure that you are pushing towards the Zarimi turn, because quite often they will be able to heal up enough damage against you. Another good card to also mulligan for is the Whelp Wrangler. That's an important card too to keep. Obviously, being able to get the extra dragon into your pool is obviously quite strong for you. Next turn, I will be more than likely just playing down the Whelp Wrangler plus Orbital Halo. Orbital Halo does apply quite a lot of tempo towards the opponent too. Then the Whelp Wrangler will be able to also get me some dragons out as well. A Manthal's perfectly fine. It's generally a good card in this sort of matchup because it can deal with the Unchiliacs that you potentially could be coming up against, or against the defense crystal. By putting the Orbital Halo onto my Whelp, it means that I can push extra damage into them. Like, it could have potentially been better to put on the Whelp Wrangler just so it was more protected in case of a Blade Storm. Yeah, but I end up just pushing a bit more damage into them. Obviously, with the extra Whelps coming out means that I'm getting a lot closer to my amount of dragons that I need. I did just hold the 2-mana spell just because I don't really need to use it just yet. I want to be trying to get either my Timewinder Zarimi or my I was hoping to get either my Timewinder Zarimi or the Clay Dragon out, just because of if I had have gotten one of those two, it would have meant that I would already have the Zarimi play against them. There's no point trading into this into the Starship piece, just because they're gonna have to trade into me anyway with the 2 taunts that are there. If they use a Brawl, it's not too much of an issue either, just simply because it's only one card that's left there as well, and they're not really posing any damage using that just single card that's there as well. I do end up drawing a Fly off the Shelves, which means that I can clear the 1/5 with it if I want to. It probably is better players than that though. Besides from that, I could potentially, my hand is quite weak at the moment, just simply because I've got so many of the taunt minions in it as well. So that's the reason why I'm just deciding whether to use the extra buff onto it or to use the Fly off the Shelves. I end up just opting to do the trades and then just go face with my other minions, just because although the Fly off the Shelves could have been a potential card, it's more useful using it into minions that potentially could take out your cards in total, like Unchiliacs or big defense crystals or things like that. Obviously, since it deals multiple bits of damage, it gets rid of the Divine Shield part of an Unchiliacs too. They end up getting a Raven through their Starport, which is in general one of the stronger Starship pieces. They also do get a Medivac, which is great for me because Medivac is terrible. I just use the Birdwatching here because in general it's going to be the best card for me. I end up just using the Zarimi just so I do have the extra play if I need to. And since I've got so many of my dragons down already, I am getting quite close. I do also put the Medivac into their pool just because if there was something they could use to get rid of it, I don't want it to be, because Medivac is in general going to be the worst of the Starship pieces to be putting down. I end up just sending my other minions face into them, and I just end up passing because there's not really anything else that I need to do. I obviously heal, but yeah, there's not really anything else I need to be dealing. They'll probably end up using a Brawl this turn, or something along those lines, some sort of clear. So they end up just using a Brawl. It means that they're sitting on two mana, and with that I am obviously pushing quite a lot closer to what I need to. So that puts them up to 13 with the armor gain. So I do need to obviously make sure that I am pushing enough towards them. With the Zarimi, I've got the 6/7, so I do need to make sure that I'm dealing enough damage. So with the 6/7 plus 2 plus 1, it's not going to be enough doing it in that particular way. I could potentially have also played down the two drop to be able to get the Zarimi a bit bigger, in addition to using the other minions that are there. But in reality, it's it would have been like it would have been lethal doing the Zarimi and then um doing the Zarimi and then doing the 2 mana spell, giving the extra 1/2 because it was 10 damage plus 1 extra. But ultimately, I did make a little bit of a misplay in that sort of situation. But since I'm sitting so close on lethal anyway, it's not really too much of a concern for me. So I do just play down the Zarimi here, eventually. Because obviously with the amount of damage that I do have coming from the board, I'm sitting in such a good position because I can also change clay my clay minion into a 4/4 as well if I need to, which is what I'm going to be doing here. And then I can trade my 3/7 and then deal the extra 2 damage going into them. Obviously, I'm just making sure that I am going to be dealing enough damage to deal with them. I should have used the clay matriarch in that trade as well. But with the Amanthal, obviously it means it clears and guarantees having the enough damage that's there, which is the idea that I ended up going for. Because then obviously their defense crystal doesn't end up proccing and then I can just deal enough damage to them. Another card that I could have gotten in that situation was Deafen as well, so it would have been, good either way to be going into. I end up playing against another warrior here, so this one, I believe I don't get as strong a hand to be able to deal with them. I do have the Whelp and I have my Chrono Boost, so I just mulligan the Scale Replica. Chrono Boost is quite strong because you're able to apply pressure towards your opponent. It also means that you draw 2 extra cards, and with one of them being possibly another Chrono Boost, you are sitting in quite a strong position. The opponent playing warrior means that they're not going to really be doing too much in the early turns as well. I do draw into my Whelp Wrangler, which is quite good for me too. It means that I'm obviously getting more set up for my Zarimi turn. They end up using the concussive shells to be able to take out my 2/1, so it wouldn't have mattered too much if I had a dragon in my hand previously or not. Unfortunately, I do end up drawing a hallucination here, which means that my Chrono Boosts aren't going to be as strong because this Chrono Boost will get the other Chrono Boost plus hallucination, and then the other cards won't be really doing anything. I do end up drawing into my Zarimi, and I just trade into the 2/1 and just heal up because I wasn't really going to be using my mana otherwise, and I could have pushed the 2 damage into their armor, but I'm not really threatening too much damage on board anyway. That they would have then been able to trade into my Taunt Minion 2 potential as well, which I don't really want to at this point in time. Fortunately for me, they do end up getting Medivac from their liftoff. I do have the Gold Panel, which I just draw into, which is quite good. I also just play down my Chrono Boost, which does obviously get me the Chrono Boost and Hallucination that I mentioned earlier, but the problem is that the next Chrono Boost that I use won't be getting me any cards from the deck, so I'm not actually getting the drawing buff from it. It's just getting the spell. They end up just getting another Medivac and then the armor one, which means that I'm sitting in a relatively decent position, because the card I don't want them to get is the Liberator. I use a bird watching here. I could either choose the Whelp Wrangler or the Chillin' Vol'jin. They're in general going to be the best two. I choose for the Whelp Wrangler just to be able to threaten some more damage into my opponent. Obviously with the extra, and also get the extra dragons that are here too. I don't trade here because I don't really, I want to threaten some more damage into them, especially since those 2 starships aren't very useful. And they're not really going to set up for anything. Using the mind control tech means that they are going to be able to trade into me more effectively. I'm not really too concerned about that though. So I play down the Gorgonzormu, because getting the cheese online as well is quite useful for your Zarimi turn, especially if you do get it up to the the 7, 8, 9 sort of mana amount. And then I just send for my 4 damage face using my Whelp Wrangler. Having the Whelp Wrangler plus the gold panel means that I am going to overdraw, but I'm not really too concerned about that simply because I have most of the cards that I want in my hand. The only cards that could potentially be a punish is Chilling Vol'jin or Ceaseless Expanse. The other cards in my deck aren't really too concerning because I do have the Zarimi already in my hand anyway. And with the two hallucinations in my Chrono boost, I have that combo play as well. So they end up just trading their mind control tech, and then they trade the zealot that they stole, and then they're just launching their starship. I can use my fly off the shelves to be able to deal with their board that's here. And they just use the shield block to obviously get themselves some more armor as well. Fly off the shelves, it deals 4 damage to the whole board because I have the 3 dragons plus it repeats. And it just means that then they have the 8-1 that's there. I do trade into that because I don't really want them to be posing more damage than what is needed for me. And I just play down all my whelps just to get them out of my hand, but also it means that I should be getting quite close to my Zarimi turn. The benefit of having these whelps down as well is with the threatening Zarimi as well, it means that your opponent is going to play in a bit of an awkward sort of way, which obviously is beneficial for you as well. They play down the Fizzle, which means that it's quite likely they have Ceaseless Expanse and Jim Raynor in their hand, and then they do a Brawl to be able to clear most of the board. Obviously, I'm hoping for the Whelp Wrangler to survive, but it doesn't. It's just one of the dragons. It's quite likely that was going to be the case anyway. I do draw into the Scale Replica, so I just play it down, and then I get my 6-mana dragon. It means that I've got a minion that will be able to survive more than likely going into the next turn. And it's a bit more threatening towards my opponent's game plan in that sort of situation. They use the concussive shells to be able to take out my 1/2, which is fine, and then they use the Jim Raynor, but since they've only got 1 starship online, it's not really too much of a concern for me. Obviously, with the amount of damage that's posing could be a little bit of an issue, but it's not too bad for me in general. I do have the Artanis here, which is quite strong for me to be able to use, because I can use the hero power to be able to clear the minions of theirs. Obviously, getting the Divine Shield onto my minions quite useful as well, and it clears most of the board that's there too. It means that my it's not likely they're going to be threatening too much damage towards me. Obviously, with the Reborn that's coming from the starship, in addition to the poison, I didn't really want to go too wide on the board. Just playing the Artanis down means that I can get the 2 zealots out to be able to do some more clears, but it also means that I'm able to start setting up for my final combo turn. They end up playing their shield block, so it draws them an extra card, but at the moment they aren't really pushing too much damage. I can use my Divine Shield to be able to trade into them as well, which is more than likely the best sort of play that I'd be looking for. With the 1/1, I also can get that onto the board as well if I need to be able to deal quite a lot of damage to them. The cheese at the moment's up to 5 as well, which is good for me. So I just put the Divine Shield onto my my Zealot, then I can trade into it, and then I can use my hero to trade into that 8/1 just to get rid of it from the board. I then just play down the ship and then the ETC. Obviously, it would have been better in the other sort of situation to be able to get the... it would have been obviously better to be able to get the... it would have been better to be able to get the 1/2 going onto the Whelp. But one benefit of it, it means that if they use Blade Flurry, I'm not really too concerned about that. They play down their Ziliax and then use Ceaseless Expanse, which means that they are going to be able to clear my board doing it that way. But with that, I do draw into the Chillin' Vol'jin, which is a fantastic draw for me. Obviously able to threaten enough damage into them as well. So this turn, since I do have Zarimi online, I'm able to deal enough damage to them if I need to as well. With them having only 51 health only, it means that I'm sitting quite close. So at the moment I'm just counting up the amount of damage that I need to deal to the opponent. So I just play down my Pendant of Earth. I have the Ceaseless Expanse, so I can get the 15 damage if I need to in the next turn. The Ceaseless Expanse obviously will be able to clear the Unchiliax that's there. So I'd play the Ceaseless Expanse down first, and then I'm going to play down the Zarimi onto the board. And then next turn I'll be able to deal enough damage to them. I don't end up playing down the cheese here. Oh, well, I missed using the hero power, so I should have used the hero power there too. But I missed playing down the cheese in that situation, just because obviously that would have been a better sort of play for me. But since I do have enough damage anyway using the hallucinations, it doesn't really matter too much. I could have also added a Orbital Halo onto there as well if I wanted to push extra damage, but obviously once again I didn't need it just because I had enough damage that was being dealt there. This match against Mage, I haven't really played too much, but in general, if you apply enough tempo against them, you're going to be dealing quite strong with them, just because Mage doesn't really have too many comeback mechanics. I end up just keeping the Whelp Wrangler here because it's quite often that they use the potion, not the potion, the chalice, because with the chalice, it means that they will be able to clear my gold panna just for 1 mana. So I do just make sure that I don't just play the gold panna down. In this situation, the Whelp Wrangler in general is going to be better for me. They play down the Dirty Rat. Luckily, they didn't hit the Zarimi for me, which would have been a big concern. I do just trade the Whelp Wrangler in, and then I just heal up. There's no point trading my 1-2 just because they're more than likely going to be the one that will trade anyway. And if they don't trade, obviously it's a benefit for me as well. So they end up using Heatwave, so it does mean that they're able to clear my board. But since I do have the dragon that's here, and since I was also lucky they didn't hit my Zarimi, I do just hero power. And then I don't end up playing the other dragon down because it's quite likely I might need to use Fly Off the Shelves to be able to clear some potential threats on their board. They end up getting an extra spell coming from their card, and then I do draw into my Chilling Vol'jin, so I just use Fly Off the Shelves just to clear the 1-3 and also the Dirty Rat. Means I'm getting a little bit of extra value from it. Next turn I'm more than likely to be using Grifter, and I'm looking for things such as the Draw 3 spell. ETC is also a relatively decent pickup as well. I do just play down the Grifter. The Draw 3 spell in general is going to be the best one for me just because at the moment my hand isn't really doing too much. And yeah, to getting the extra cards, they're not going to really want to use it as well because if they do, they're not going to be able to get, they potentially could mill some important cards of theirs. They do end up getting the Artanis down, which is a little bit unfortunate for me. With my Fly Off the Shelves, I do have enough damage that I'm able to deal with those two Zealots though, which is good. I do end up using the Whelp just to be able to get the buff onto one of my minions in my hand because I don't really want to have it on either of my other ones. I'd prefer have it onto the Zarimi at most, but if not, I'd want to have it onto the 6-drop. The Chilling Vol'jin in my hand also is quite strong for potential, potential big minion they could play down. That means that obviously they can't really threaten too much if they do go with that particular way. They do use a Heat Wave, but it's not really they didn't really do too much for me. I have a Chrono booster, I have the Artanis. I do end up opting just to play the Artanis down to threaten a little bit of damage and have a little bit of a board. I could have used Chrono Boost plus the Gorgonzormu, like that wouldn't have been a terrible play either, but it's in general going to be better just being able to have the Chillin' Vol'jin play for it. They end up using a photo cannon and a glyph, so at the moment I am sitting in quite a decent position with the amount of minions that I have here. Once again, they do use a Dirty Rat. Luckily, it didn't hit didn't hit my Time Winder Zarimi. That sort of hand that I had here, it was a lot less likely. And then they use the draw 3 spells, so it ends up milling one of their Chrono boosts, which is quite good for me. Right now I'm just deciding what the best option is going to be. I end up just using the Chrono boost. It gets me obviously the extra minions onto my board. And then I'd play down the ETC just to get me set up for next turn. I choose the Pendant of Earth just because if I need to, I can use the Ceaseless Expanse combo to be able to deal lethal with them. Because it also means that I can heal up the extra damage if I need to as well, because with the Colossus, they are going to deal quite a lot of damage. I end up drawing into the Whelp Wrangler, so it's not really too great for me. I do use the Pendant here. Unfortunately, I don't end up hitting my my Ceaseless Expanse. I chose the Amanthal because it's most likely the card that's most likely going to help me survive here. And then I have to use my Chrono boost just to trade into their 9/4, because if they did trade and then if they use their hero power and then dealt damage to me, they would have had lethal. They use the shield battery and then twin blades, so they're not really threatening too much to me at the moment. Then they use their photon cannon, so it means that they are going to be able to clear the zealot, so I can't use the hallucination play anymore. But unfortunately, that was the best sort of way that I'd be able to deal with their minions. I play down the clay matriarch and then the mini one along with the Gorgonzormu to be able to get it out of my hand. Obviously, this should be enough of a threat to be able to deal with them. They end up using the twin blades and it just goes into my 1/1. Not really too concerned about that. With the rising waves, it means that they are able to clear most of my minions that are there. I do draw into the Ceaseless Expanse, which would have been a lot nicer in a previous turn with the pendant that I had. And then I play down the Amanthal, and then I'm going to copy the matriarch, just because it means that I get the extra dragon onto the board, and obviously it means that I'm also have a little bit more damage. I have a little bit more of a threatening board going into them. It potentially was a better play to use the Divine Shield onto one of the matriarchs, and also obviously playing down the ship one first. But that's a sort of hindsight thing. So playing down the ship and then doing those other ones would have been better. But I also didn't know what the Amanthal was potentially going to get, so I didn't want to risk it just in case. They end up clearing one of my clay matriarchs, but I am still dealing a decent amount of damage into them. My Zarimi is also online now, so I'm just right now counting up how much damage that I am threatening towards them. With the 26 that's there, I can use the Ceaseless Expanse to clear the whole board, and then I can do the Zarimi sort of play. It would have been better to use the Amanthal to be able to get my it would have been better to use the Amanthal to get my other dudes, but ultimately I did have enough damage that was being dealt there. I could also use the hero power in that situation as well to deal damage to them, but I have enough just sitting on board, and then they end up conceding. If you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and bye for now.